Feeling good, feeling great. Feeling great, feeling good. How are you? Welcome into Timeline T. I am your host, D. Sandy, aka Sandy Jr. Oh, it's a Friday. Cinco de Mayo? Turn up responsibly. I may or may not be getting into some shenanigans later. We'll see. Calls have been made. Reservations have been placed. We'll see. But before that, we got a lot of stuff to get into. Hot stove basketball? Yep. You saw the thumbnail. You read the title. Speculation on the Nigerian freak. That's where we're leading off. You see the topic bar. All the way across. Left to right. NBA playoffs. There was a game last night. It was a very mid-game, but a very important game. Sets the table for tonight. 2 games tonight. Thankfully, tired of the 1 games per night. We get 2. Heading into the weekend, we get more of that. Also, Tom Brady. He lied again. He coming back again. He want that old thing back. He want that Miami thing back. Derpy, I don't do that. I don't do clickbait. I'm not one of those channels. If I'm saying something, I have proof that it's being said. That's why you rock with me and not them, I assume. All right. Since Derpy thinks it's cap, let's go ahead and tap in. Giannis on the block. This is courtesy of your man's Brian Windhurst. Jumping out the window and says that the Knicks are monitoring Giannis Antetokounmpo's situation in Milwaukee. The New York Knicks, for example, they got 97% of their attention on the Miami Heat, 3% of their attention on Milwaukee. The Nigerian freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. And it's not just them. More on Giannis and the Knicks. Is Giannis going to extend? The league is watching. And then the same thing about the Knicks, 97-3, all of that. So we got all of that. Let me pull up the screen here just so you can read it for yourself. So you know I'm not trolling. I'm not clickbaiting you. This is real stuff. On the 4-letter network, Brian Windhurst said the Knicks are monitoring Giannis Antetokounmpo's situation in Milwaukee. And if you listen to the clip, I won't play it here because of copyright, but if you listen to the clip, there's a lot of stuff going on in regards to the ownership recently being sold, bought in for $750-ish mil, cashed out for over $3 billion. New ownership, Coach Budenholzer out of there, fired the other day. And now, if you're looking at Giannis Antetokounmpo's contract situation, he is eligible to extend very soon. With everything that's going on with the Milwaukee Bucks, being that Chris Middleton could be gone. Brook Lopez could be gone. What would be left of this team that was the number 1 seed overall in the Eastern Conference this past season? So if things are going to change in Milwaukee, and if you want to hit the reset button, how would you hit that reset button? It's not by letting Chris Middleton walk. That's not a reset. It's not by, having Brook Lopez walk. That's not a reset. It's not even flipping Drew Holiday. That's not a reset. The only way to reset, if you're really about that life, is to potentially move the Nigerian freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Back to Derpy. Well, Greek freak, welcome to the Cavs or the Lakers. Allegedly, the Knicks are in the mix. Allegedly, the Miami Heat are always thought to be in the mix. And don't sleep on the Warriors. Remember, that was a hot rumor not that long ago of, Steph and Giannis are very close. Nobody wants him to go to the Knicks. Absolutely nobody. I mean, well, maybe Giannis does. Basically, I ultimately think it comes down to, who will take on not just Giannis, but his brother too. Okay. Who has the cap space? Let me see. Can this soundboard work today? There we go. Little Rick Ross laugh for you. Oh, I don't know if that came through. It's not on stereo. Hang on. Let me see. I don't know if that laugh came through. Let me make sure, get the right settings up for that laugh to go through. All right. Now this should be set. Rick Ross. Okay. Yeah. I think that worked now. So yeah, it really just depends on who can not only bring in Giannis, but can bring in Giannis's brother. You need room on that roster, so you're not just bringing in one Antetokounmpo, you're bringing in two Antetokounmpos. And who knows, the third one might finally be ready. You might have to bring in all three. But I would not be surprised if we get some, Giannis to the Warriors action. And we know they got the young bodies, even though they traded Weissman. They still got Kuminga. They still got Moses Moody. They still got Baldwin from this year's draft. They got a whole bunch of youngins that they could potentially put together in the context they could move. You could put Wiggins in that deal. Wiggins and a bunch of youngins for Giannis, not horrible. I wonder if that's something that the Bucks would entertain. Giannis for Wiggins, Kuminga, Moody, Baldwin, basically all the youngins they've been drafting and stockpiling over the last 2-3 drafts. You have to consider it, especially if you're going to let Brook Lopez walk, especially if you're going to let, Chris Middleton walk, and Jrue Holiday, who got bully balled by Jimmy Butler. So even though he's one of the best defenders in the league, especially best wing defenders, despite his size, he got bully balled. Now, whether that was just because it was Jimmy, I don't know. But Jrue Holiday has openly talked of, I'm just going to play out the last 2 years of this contract and then I'm retiring. So if this whole thing is being done in Milwaukee, where Middleton could walk, Brook Lopez could walk, and Jrue Holiday is openly talking about retiring in 2 years, then maybe you do tear it down and build it back over. Maybe you do flip Giannis and see what you can get. I know the Knicks are going to think they're in the mix here, but if we look up the Knicks, and I was going to talk Warriors and Lakers in a minute, but this Giannis thing is really interesting. If we take a look at the Knicks and their roster, if you're the Bucks, who do you want from here that makes money? Like, that's the thing. The money has to work. Who are you talking about? Julius? Julius and what? Obi? Grimes? Like, who? I don't know. I don't know who you would take if you're the Bucks. I think it's a much more, enticing deal to pull a trigger on such a, organization shifting move in that aspect. Not the Knicks. I don't know what you're getting from the Knicks. I know they have a whole bunch of picks and everyone's enamored by picks. And maybe that's something where new ownership wants to, have cheap talent instead of paying for top tier talent. Maybe that's a factor. I think that's the only factor you have to consider if you're really thinking the Knicks are in the mix. But in terms of getting ready-made players, you have to look at Miami because Miami is always in that mix for a player. And we looked at it yesterday where, they're always in the mix for Kevin Durant. And if this Phoenix thing kind of flounders, as it appears to be with the point fraud falling down and going boom and being out for at least the next 2 games, maybe 3, if the Phoenix thing is a wrap, then you're looking at Miami again being a suitor or having the pieces necessary to go get a Kevin Durant because they can give up in no real order. You could give up a Bam and a Tyler Hero throw in whatever else you need to make it work with some future picks, and then you have a nucleus of Jimmy and KD. Although I believe, didn't KD said he would like to play with Bam? I don't know. It's too much to keep up with. KD would like the ball with anyone who's nice. But in regards to Golden State, I think that's the one. That's the cheat code. You put Steph and Giannis together. Because look at all these guys you could flip. You'd probably do Wiggins just to make the money work, right? You do Wiggins to make the money work. And then you have Kuminga, Moody, Baldwin. I don't know if you're going to do Baldwin and Rollins, but you got at least 4 youngins to pick from. You got 4 youngins to pick from. So I think if you're the Warriors and you're trying to make a real deal here, you put Wiggins in there because you don't need a 3 no more. Because you also have to remember, they're most likely losing Draymond. This is probably the last hurrah for Draymond Green, the habitual nut hitter, right? So if that's the case, then you have a power forward spot available. And if you have a power forward spot available, then obviously if you trade for the Nigerian freak and Giannis Antetokounmpo, then he could come in and fill that. But you also might have to flip Wiggins. Now you have a core of Steph, Clay, and Giannis. Dangerous. Be careful. Because the Warriors have stockpiled all these youngins. They got 4 youngins, potentially 5, that you could just say, all right, pick 2 out of these 3. Pick 2 out of these 4, maybe 3 out of these 5. Pair it with Wiggins. You let the habitual nut hitter walk in free agency, and then now you got a new big 3. Because the key for the Warriors in this whole thing is to keep retooling around Steph still being Steph. And while he's shown, and he showed it again last night in different ways, not necessarily bombing away, but being a facilitator, you need to be able to keep putting pieces around him that can keep extending his prime. KD extended Steph Curry's prime. This current group cannot extend his prime. They're using him up. That's why, again, I think it was so idiotic that they drafted James Wiseman when they had LaMelo Ball right there, especially after Clay tore the ACL again hours before the draft. It was the most ridiculous thing ever. And what did they get for Wiseman? 5 second-round picks and the ability to get Gary Payton the second back? You burnt the 3rd overall pick for that? Crazy. That pick did not help extend Steph Curry's prime. Now you're looking at these guys that they have on the roster that isn't getting any run. Kuminga is not getting no real run. Moody's not getting no run. And Baldwin Jr. and Ryan Rollins are making love to that bench. They're not getting no real run. But if you can package 3 of these 4, or maybe you could get away with 2 of these 4, in a package for Giannis with moving Wiggins on out of there, that extends the prime of Steph Curry. And that should be priority number 1 if you are the Golden State Warriors. So we shall see. But I think as of right now, you have to look at that and figure out, how do we make this happen? How can we extend the lifeblood of Steph Curry? And I think it's by making his job easier. He's working very hard. He worked very hard last night. They used him in different ways. They had to put him back on the ball last night, as opposed to game 1 against the Lakers when, they were trying to use him off the ball and do the traditional run Steph off of a shit ton of screens to get him open. They had to move away from that because Jarrett Vanderbilt's defense was so important and so stifling that it really limited what Steph could do. So they put Steph on the ball, make Steph bring the ball up. That's making him work harder. That's not the place you want to be right now if you're the Warriors. They have no choice, but this is where they're at. It's the Steph show. If it's not the Steph show, they're not going to win these games. Now, they took care of business last night. They took care of the Lake show. AD, a lot of people are riding on AD, and that's cool, and it's an easy target. But to me, I look at the defensive effort. It was never there. Bron is so clearly hobbled that, it's really, the longer this series goes, the worse this is going to be for the Lakers. If the Lakers are going to win this series, they cannot let this series go to 7. They cannot. If they let this go to series to 7, they're in real trouble. But right now, if you're looking at Giannis and potential landing spots, you have to consider the Warriors, because they have a shit ton of youngins who aren't getting any run that other teams covet. So they got at least a few guys in Kuminga, Moody, Baldwin Jr., and Rollins. Those are 4 guys where you can pick 2 or 3 of them, package them with Wiggins, throw in maybe another pick swap, and you could go get the Nigerian freak Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't believe the smoke of what Windhurst is saying here in regards to the Knicks. The Knicks, to me, don't have the bodies. They have the picks. If you're only concerned about picks, which the Bucks could, because, again, new ownership, so we don't know what their agenda is. Giannis is able to extend year after next. You got Brook Lopez, who could walk. You got Chris Middleton, who could walk. And you have Drew Holiday saying, this is my last contract. I'm going to play this out the last 2 years, and then I'm retiring. So there's no nucleus here. There's no way to rebuild. If the old heads are leaving, if the core of the group that won that chip 2 years ago is walking away, then what are you going to do with Giannis? And if the new ownership group doesn't care about extending Giannis, then you got to move on from Giannis, right? As crazy as that sounds, trust me, when I first saw the headlines, I was like, that's not legit. But then you reach out to people, and you're like, well, wait a minute. You think this is not just smoke? Like, there's really a fire here? And you're looking at potentially the Knicks. And if you're talking about Giannis has always been rumored to go to the Bay. That was a hot rumor a couple of years ago. And then you also have to figure in the Miami Heat, because the Miami Heat are always in on Kevin Durant and have it the enough pieces to go get Kevin Durant. So if they have enough pieces to go get Kevin Durant, why can't they have enough pieces to go get Giannis Antetokounmpo? It's something interesting to navigate and to watch to try to figure out just what the hell is going on. So there's your lead story, Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's the first time I've tripped up on that name in a very long time. I've been smooth. You have to get a rhythm when you say that name, Giannis Antetokounmpo. You have to get a little rhythm with saying that name. But anyway, the headline is not clickbait. The thumbnail is not clickbait. There it is. Right there, live and direct. We'll move on to the playoff action last night and the action we're going to get tonight. So let me move back. So the Warriors take care of business, and I think you need to look at 2 things. And it's not Anthony Davis, even though people love to ride on Anthony Davis, and the numbers are not that great. 5 of 11, only 11 shots. We understand that. That's fine. Here, to me, is where the game changed. And I've been critical of Steph in his lack of playmaking ability. But the fact of the matter is, 12 dimes is 12 dimes. And these were not cheap dimes where he's just getting drop-offs at the rim. These were real assists. And like I talked about a couple of minutes ago, they used him differently in the flow of the offense. It wasn't the traditional Warriors with a bunch of curls, screens, and pin downs and dribble handoffs for Steph off the baselines. It was a lot of him bringing the rock up. They're making him be a point guard. And they got it off last night. He took, I believe, 16 threes in game 1. He only took 5 last night because the ball was in his hands and he was facilitating. They're making Steph be a point guard. Now, if you're Darvin Ham and the Lake Show, you need to figure out, what are you willing to take your chances on? Are you willing to take your chances on Steph doing what Steph would like to do, which is come off the curls, the screens, the pin downs, and the dribble handoffs, and just, let him get all the shots up and just hope he tires himself out by shooting so much? Or do you allow him to be a guy that can bring the ball up 75, 90 feet and let him orchestrate and let him cook? Because you finally got a Clay game. 8 threes for Clay last night. You finally got a Clay game. It's been overdue for about a series and a half, but you finally get a Clay game. If you're going to live and die with the threes the way that they have, and what they did 53 in game one, they had another 42 last night. What's that? 95 threes in 2 games? 95 threes in 2 games. So those threes are going up, whether you want to or not. Even DiVincenzo putting up 8 threes. So it's going to happen. Ultimately, the Lake Show lost this game because they could not adjust to Steph being a point guard or being used primarily as a point guard last night. And then, when he got ready to talk about Bron is, he's clearly hurt. He's hobbled. Health is wealth in these playoffs. He has not looked good. He's had moments, he's had flashes, he's had spurts, but this is a 38-year-old man. That's kind of what you expect. The problem is that he's not playing where I think his primary position should be. He's a 4 at this point. He still thinks he's a 3. He still thinks he could float around the outside. Dogs, you're on 1 foot. You're not blowing by anybody. You can bully ball people. He can Giannis his way to the cup if he wants. But at 38, he don't have the stamina for that. But I think if he takes his ass to the block and does work, I think that's where he needs to transition, because we've seen it with Jordan. We saw it with Kobe, where as they got older, they had to learn to take it down to the paint and cook. When the athleticism starts to erode, you go down to the block, dog, because now you can hit him with fundamentals and guile, and we know LeBron is one of the highest IQs ever in this game. But he still likes to float out there thinking he's like 31, thinking he's 27. Like, you're not in Miami, dog. You're not in Miami no more. Where's the shot chart? Go into the shot chart early, because I want to see where Bron was getting these shots up last night. Yes, they way too much outside. Way too much. Way too much outside. You see this. Way too much. No, can't have this. This is a horrible shot chart for someone of LeBron's caliber. Let me get the red color. This is a no-no. All of this, no-no. All of this, no-no. This, no-no. No. Stop it. Stop it. Can't do it. Can't have any of this. Any of this. No. That ain't you right now. Get down on the block. You see what happens when you're in the paint. You see what happens. You're on the baseline. That's fine. We'll take that miss. I'd rather take misses from here than these. I'd rather take this miss. This miss is fine to me. This miss is quasi-acceptable. But these? Nah, dog, because you don't need to shoot these. You don't need to shoot these. And that's where the issue lies when it comes to LeBron. LeBron is out here shooting in places that right now he's not healthy enough to shoot. And we could get into Anthony Davis, and I know people, you know, they were clowning AD, but he shot the ball where he's supposed to. This is a very similar shot chart to game one. It's just the shots didn't fall. And he said as much in the postgame. He said, I took the same shots, the shots didn't fall. If you look at the shot chart, he's right. He is absolutely right. Now, there were more of these shots. I think he took 19 shots in game one as opposed to 11 last night in game two. But ultimately, where he took the shots, it's the same spots. Same spots. I mean, I can even pull it up on here. Let's pull it up on here. Where's the game one box score? Okay, tell me the difference outside of quantity. Game two, game one. Same difference. Show me the difference. Not that much of a difference, just more shots. So if you tell me he should have took more shots, cool. But they also changed up the defense on him last night. They took out Looney. They went small. They put JaMychal Green out there, which spreads the floor even more. Because if you're going to give Steph the rock, you need to give him more shooters. So you take Looney off the floor. They said he was injured, he was sick or whatever. Sure. The bottom line is Looney was not starting that game no matter what last night because they wanted to go small ball. They go small ball with JaMychal Green. They spread out the floor. They increased the spacing, and Steph was able to facilitate. Because now the habitual nut hitter can do what he does in terms of the screens, the pick and pops, all that stuff. And now if you sag off, he can operate. Because I think he had 9 dimes himself last night. So not only did the Steph give you 12. Let's see, where are we at? Yeah, Steph had 12 dimes. Habitual nut hitter had 9. Okay. So you letting those two guys facilitate. You can't let both of them facilitate. You can let one of them facilitate, but you cannot let both of them facilitate. That's a problem. That's an absolute problem. You cannot have that. So that's ultimately what you're looking at when you come across in terms of making the adjustments. The Warriors made the adjustment of going small. They made the adjustment of putting Steph on the ball. And now the Lakers have to adjust. If the Warriors go small, you need to pick your poison. Are you going to keep your bigs out there? Or are you going to adjust your lineup and go small? And if the Lakers go small, who are you taking out? Vanderbilt's too important to take out. And D'Lo and Reeves are small already. So that's kind of where it's not necessarily a checkmate, but you're going to have to use Vanderbilt different. Unless you want to use Vanderbilt to chase Steph full court, trying to figure out how else you could do it. Maybe if you take Reeves out, you could go Rui for more of a positionless basketball lineup. You could go Rui. Rui had a great game last night. He's been really good this whole playoff. Shout out to Phil Handy. If you know, you know. But I'm trying to navigate poor Lonnie Walker. I don't know why Lonnie Walker's not playing more. Even Tristan got some love last night. Mo Bamba is supposed to be on his way back, but if the Warriors are going small, he really won't matter much in this series. He'll matter if you advance, but Mo Bamba has no real place in this series. And here's the thing for the Warriors. Do you start JaMychal Green again? You can't go back to Looney now. You got to see if JaMychal Green, who was complaining about not having playing time, and apparently Steph had a speech where he was allegedly cursing out dudes and gave them an invigorating speech that, he's not known for, and it's supposed to galvanize the troops. We'll see, but it worked for one game. Let's see if it works for the rest of the series. But if you're Darvin Ham, where do you make the adjustment? Do you put Austin Reeves on the bench, let him run with the twos, and then elevate Rui because he's been the most consistent guy off the bench? You can't bench Vanderbilt. If you do, though, I wouldn't do it for Schroeder. He's in a tough spot here. Malik Beasley's been a shell of his former self. He has not shot right ever since he became a Laker. This guy was lights out with the Timberwolves, and he's come to the Lake Show, and he's been mid. And that's me being generous. That might be the checkmate, yo. Low key, might be the checkmate. Unless you bring Rui in for Austin Reeves, that's the only move I could see. You can't bring D'Lo off the bench. Vanderbilt doesn't deserve to be benched. Austin Reeves had a great series against Memphis. What did he do in game one? Yeah, Austin Reeves hasn't really given you that much. His starting spot could be moved. I think if you're going to try to match up with JaMychal Green, I think you have to go Rui in the starting lineup, and that means moving Reeves out. That's going to be interesting, though. I don't know if that's the right thing to do. You can't just say we're just going to run it back with the same five, and that's fine. But you better have a plan, because if Steph is going to be more of a facilitator, then that means you really got to lock in on Klay. So do you allow Reeves or D'Lo to be the primary on Steph and let Vanderbilt run around with Klay? Because once Steph is not the facilitator, he's not the number one option no more. Now the number one option becomes Klay. So do you put Vanderbilt on Klay and then let Austin Reeves and D'Lo be feast or famine with Steph? Because LeBron's on 1 foot. He's not going to give you much defensively. You got to hide Bron almost at this point. You got to hide Bron on defense. It's going to be something to watch. It's going to be something to watch. This series got really interesting last night because, with all these series, it's always a game of adjustments. It's becoming a real thing now to try to understand how this is going to go. So that is that game. That is that series tied up at 1, going into, I'm still going to call it Staples, for games 3 and 4. Moving on. We got the games tonight. Games plural. We finally get another night with 2 games. Why won't they give us this website can be such a pain. All these steps just to, all right. So we have Celtics Sixers tonight at Philly, Wells Fargo. And then later on tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern, Denver Phoenix. The Denver Phoenix game is the most interesting because you want to see what Phoenix can do. They've had a lot of time off. Have they cooked up anything to figure out how to beat the Nuggets with no point fraud? And then when it comes to the Celtics and the Sixers, you're looking at, okay, what can they do? Here we go again. What can they do if you're Philly with whatever Joel Embiid can give you? And how long are you going to stick with it if he looks as hobbled as he did the other night? I was expecting a much better Joel Embiid. I was expecting a much fresher Joel Embiid. I got information saying that he looked pretty good. And what I saw on the floor in Boston for game 2 was not a guy who looked good. He looked like a guy that is supposed to be out 4 to 6 weeks. So, but maybe that was just rust. Maybe that was just him just having to work through it, just testing out some moves and seeing what was available. But you don't look at any of these stats from game 2. It's really about projecting. They got a great performance from Jaylen Brown in game 2. They got a mid one from Jaylen Brown in game 1. So it's really nothing that you could go off of. The Jason Tatum thing, I think, is something to monitor in regards to the shots and the shot amounts that he puts up. But, you didn't need that much from him, so you didn't get that much from him. But going forward, you would assume that's going to be the case. So interesting to see how that goes tonight. We'll take a look at that. But that Denver-Phoenix game, I want to know how they're going to respond. How would the Phoenix Suns, how would they respond? With no point fraud, having Kevin Durant, having Devin Booker, still having DeAndre Ayton, but little to no bench, how will they respond? Can they hold it down at the crib? Can they hold serve? Can they even this thing up when sending it back to Denver? It's highly unlikely to me through 2 games. Through 2 games, game 1, Jamal Murray was Himothy. In game 2, Nikola Jokic was Himothy. And they don't have an answer for either one. There's nothing that Phoenix can do to stop Jokic when he's rolling, and there's nothing that they can do roster-wise to stop Jamal Murray when he's rolling. Aaron Gordon's been serviceable. Michael Porter wasn't that great in game 2, but he was good in game 1. So, it's just the Nuggets have a bunch of dudes. They got 4 dudes that can go. The Suns had 4 guys that can go, but in different ways. The Suns 4 is really a 2.5. 2 3/4. I won't be that insulting. D Booker 1, Kevin Durant 2, DeAndre Ayton, he's a half, and then a point forward is a quarter. So they got 4 names, but really they got 2 3/4 dudes. Whereas when you go down to Denver, their top 4, Nikola Jokic is a 1, Jamal Murray is a 2, Aaron Gordon is a half, and Michael Porter Jr. is probably a half, maybe a 3/4. So you're looking at, 4 guys, but they're really 3 or 3 1/4. And now you take out the point forward completely, it's not even. With him missing game 3, 4, and maybe even 5, if this series even goes that far. The thing to watch for tonight is shot distribution. Who else is going to be taking shots? Because you see the disparity in the shots. It can't just be D Book and Kevin Durant. It can't be. Somebody else is going to have to step up here. With no point fraud, that probably means no DeAndre Ayton. Because he doesn't have the skill set necessary to be able to get shots on his own. It's not going to be an Okogie. Can Damian Lee be a gunner at the crib? Can he be bombs away? Campaign, can he go out there and provide a spark? Torrey Craig, can he get hot for a night? Who's going to be the third guy? It will not be Ayton in my estimation. And with no point fraud, you got potential there with Campaign. He's filled in nicely over the years behind the point fraud, but he's been battling injuries his damn self, so that's going to be something to watch. Interesting games here. Interesting games. So that is your NBA playoffs. You come off the screen and just see if there's anything new in regards to some NBA information. I'm not going to touch on the Howard Stern thing. I think it's silly. Let's see what else. Nope, get off that. Why is that not working? Okay, there it is. Okay. Yeah, it's quiet on the timeline. It is a Friday. It is a Friday. So it's a lot that is like kind of sort of news, but not necessarily. Yeah, in regards to NBA, not seeing a whole lot left. Yeah, it's quiet for that. It's quiet for that in the NBA. All right, so we can move on to Tom Brady. Tom Brady has been outside, and he has been really trying to navigate what he wants to do with the next steps in his career. And I think ultimately, when you look at what he's trying to do, let's get to the Tom Brady story. There we go. There were rumors that he was trying to get out of that Fox deal. Remember that Fox deal was what, 10 years? 10 years, $375 million deal with Fox. He responds with just a 2-word quote, fake news. He responded on the Elon app under a Sports Illustrated tweet. Unfortunately, when you look at this, it's really just about, do we think he really is going to retire? It's clear that he still wants to play in some capacity, and it's hard to believe him when he's had now one botched retirement that was never really supposed to be a retirement. And now he had this latest one where he's chilling on the beach in Miami, with the waves behind him and, sitting on the sand and just reflecting. And it looked very like he was trying to be emotional on the vid and says it's for real this time and so on and so forth. But now we're getting reports of, he wants to take a year off. And Fox is like, yo, dogs, we're trying to pay you 375 of these M's. When are you going to show up for work? Because, this right here, 10 years, 375 million just to be on TV, once a week. I think he still wants to play. And if I'm Tua Tagovailoa, I would be nervous. Because he's already tried to take your job once in the botched attempt that only got foiled because of the nonsense that they tried to pull on Brian Flores. That's the only reason why that deal didn't go to fruition. Now you have it where, if we really want to talk about it, he never wanted to really go back to Tampa Bay anyway last year. He was banking on being in Miami with Sean Payton. Now he's actually retired. Tampa Bay has moved on. Now he can spin the block again if he wants. That's why this year off before he, allegedly steps into the booth for Fox, could be him trying to navigate how can I find my way back into the Dolphins? Because that was going to be an ownership stake. That was going to be a high-level executive position. And then he was going to come down from, that booth, that suite, and come play again. So is he trying to restart that whole process again? By taking a year off when he's supposed to be in the booth for Fox? He's problematic, dude. He's problematic. If I'm Fox, the cachet of him being in the booth isn't going to make anyone watch a game. Are you going to watch a game more just because Tom Brady is in the booth? I don't care now when there's someone in the booth. I only like it when the guys that I like are actually good at the job, but it really doesn't matter. I'm still going to watch the game. So what necessarily is the value of paying this guy $375 million, 37 and a half if you can't do the math, $37.5 million a year to be in a booth that no one ultimately really cares that he's in? If he's covering a shit game, I'm not going to watch it just because he's in the booth. Outside of just seeing if he's any good. And if he's average, then it doesn't matter. And if he's bad, then it doesn't matter. I won't listen. And if he's great, then fine. When that game matters, I'll watch it. We've listened to games. We've watched games with Jason Witten on commentary. It doesn't matter who's in the booth. We've had stand-up comedians. We've had politicians. We've had, all types in the booth. We've had racists. We've had sexists. We've had we've had all types of people in the booth, and it doesn't matter. We keep watching these games anyway. So what is the value of paying Tom Brady $375 million in the first place? Fox is just trying to get an ROI on their bread. I don't blame them. But I think Tom Brady's trying to spin the block one last time and do the Miami thing that him, Stephen Ross, who is a University of Michigan alum, has been trying to get off for years. This whole thing started before the pandemic. Him and Tom Brady, his people, and Stephen Ross and whoever else on that yacht in 2019 cooking this up. And it's 2023, and they still haven't figured out how to cook it up. Sean Payton went and took another job. He's in Denver now, so he can't even get the guy that he wanted. It was supposed to be a package deal of Brady and Sean Payton. Can't even get that. This man just wants to play football. You're going to have to drag him off the field. He doesn't want the storybook. He doesn't want the storybook ending. He could have had that. When the Bucks won that Super Bowl, he could have walked off. Couldn't do it. Giselle begging him to stay home. Couldn't do it. Lost Giselle. Now he walks away, spins the block on Giselle. Can't get her back, allegedly. It's crazy, dogs. Really, really crazy. I don't know what Brady does, man, but that's problematic as hell. There's a few more NBA stories I wanted to touch on. Where is it? Is this it? Yes. Utah Jazz keeping a very interested eye on Luka Doncic's situation in Dallas. Okay, so now There is reports. Now, who's this reporting from? Let's see. Okay. The Athletics' John Hollinger. With my spies telling me that Utah in particular is keeping a very interested eye on Doncic's situation. Even the Nets kitchen sink offer for Doncic, the 4 firsts from Phoenix and 1 from Philly, plus whatever matching salary not named Mikal Bridges is needed to make the deal work, likely falls massively short. So Utah, who's got 1,000,000 picks, and I guess they would have the salary with who? Who on Utah is making the kind of money to make this deal work? It ain't gonna be no Jordan Clarkson. You can't do it to Laurie. Laurie just got there and he looks the part. Yeah, who makes money here? I don't know who you're trading. I don't know how Utah gets in the mix unless it's just a couple of dudes and, a bunch of role players to make the contracts work, and then a bunch of those picks that they've been stockpiling. But I don't see that. I don't see that happening. Okay, but here's a reminder of the picks. The Jazz have assembled a massive package of assets, including 15 unprotected or lightly protected first-round picks through to 2029 in a young core of Markkanen, Kessler, Sexton, and Akabaji, and $60 million plus in potential cap space. But the problem is, how do you make the money work to get Luka? I mean, this sounds like just something to make a headline, because financially, I don't know how that works. Do I got to pull up a spot track? Let's see if we can pull up a spot track. I haven't used spot track for an NBA contract yet, but let's see. NBA, Luka Doncic. So he got the full extension, 43. He's getting 40 mil next year. Okay. So to make this work, let's now go to Utah. Current contracts. All right, who makes money? Colin Sexton. You got to get at least 40 mil. They can't put Markkanen in this deal. So Sexton, THT, that's 28 million. And I guess Olynyk? That's just to make the salaries work. Then you're giving up a shit ton of picks. Then they have to cough up a lot of those picks. Utah. So they have. So it's they have a pick swap with OKC. They own the Timberwolves first, likely to be a good pick, and the Cavs. That's probably going to not be outside the lottery. They got the Laker pick. That's top 4 protected in 2027. Yeah, I don't know. That one's going to be rough. I don't know how you move Luka, even to Utah. All right, let's see. We got about 10 minutes here. We'll do it just an hour today. It's a Friday. The Friday stream, Cinco de Mayo. There's a lot going on. All right. Do you want to touch on that one? No, I believe Howard Stern alone. Howard Stern alone. We don't care. Robert Sala says Aaron Rodgers' wish list is a silly narrative, even though they have 2 of the 4 guys that were on that wish list, and they're making inroads on the 3rd. Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, and even Billy Turner is familiar with Aaron Rodgers. And I've talked about this, and this is Salah speaking. Tom Brady goes to Tampa, he gets Gronkowski and Antonio Brown. So it's very common for new faces to want old faces to be able to come in and accelerate the installation of a program. And that's what we've been talking about here on this stream is that, Aaron Rodgers is trying to pull a Tom Brady. The problem is, you see the players that Tom Brady was bringing in, he was bringing in Hall of Famers, future Hall of Famers. He was bringing in arguably the greatest tight end of all time and a Hall of Fame wide receiver. Aaron Rodgers is bringing in Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, Billy Turner, and Mercedes Lewis. There is a difference here. There is a difference here. I'll leave that Howard Stern stuff alone. We'll do one last check of the timeline. Because if we can start the weekend early, we will. Got a couple of minutes left, if that, but I have no problem bailing. Nikola Jokic, no, that's a bullshit story. Oh, we lost Kevin Samuels 1 year ago today. Salute. Salute. Yeah, it's looking dead vibes. One of the executive producers of The Last Dance is among the layoffs at the Fort of the network. It's cold out here. It is cold out here. All right. Yep. It looks to be dead vibes on the timeline. There's not that much going on. Gave you everything. We did the Tom Brady. We did the playoffs. We did the Giannis lead story on the trading block. If you had missed part of that, you can always tap back into the beginning of the stream on the replay. But we're going to go ahead and get Cinco de Mayo started a little early since it is dead vibes on the timeline and it's time to get turned up. So I will wish y'all a great night, a great weekend, and I will be back here on Monday for a new edition of Timeline T. So for me, the Sam D, Sam Duzme Jr., I will catch y'all on Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Peace.